Welcome into the roundtable. I'm Brad Wakai. That is my co-host Tyson Gentry. I know what you're thinking. You guys are cowards. You guys were scared to come on the podcast and talk about the Eagles losing the Super Bowl because you were talking a big game. But I have to tell you, people, listen. We were hurt. We were upset. Yes. Tyson was so hurt and upset. He literally got physically sick. Like he lost his voice for the entire week. At work, they wouldn't let him answer the phone because nobody could understand what he was saying. Like he was on his deathbed, people. So cut him some slack.
It was a rough week. I'll tell you that much. I honestly, and I know nobody cares, but how long? I mean, you're probably still not over if I had to guess. I think I got home that night and James Bradbury had said, I held, and that was it. That was like, I felt myself be like, oh, fuck. Well, I don't have any right to be mad. That's that.
No, dude. Like you can't make that call if you're the referee in that decision. Like I don't care. Like people are trying to talk themselves into it. I'm like, first defensive penalty all game. That's the spot. Like we're not going to get into it because people are like, yeah, we've heard all this stuff before.
Yeah, they don't care anymore.
We missed our window to give our opinion on that. But we are going to talk football, give the season recap. But I mean, other than that, Tyson, I mean, a great season for us as bettors. We have some season-long win totals we did. I think I hit around 53%, so not great for the week-to-week market, but I thought a pretty profitable season overall, and I know you did the same.
Yeah, I mean, preseason, season longs too. If you hear 53% on season longs, you might be like, well, it's not great. The odds are you're at plus 500 for like favorites for these things, for a lot of these season long wins for stat leaders. So to hit at a good percentage on those big odds made it a little bit more easy to stomach once I was able to go cash all those things.
Right, exactly. And it's like that's why we do that. First and foremost, like that's why we did that big podcast, giving out these season longs. I mean, just for kind of everybody's knowledge here. So we had Justin Jefferson most receiving yards. That was plus 900. We also bet into the most passing yards market, most rushing yards market, most sacks market. At least I did. I don't think you bet in on sacks with me, but you were definitely on yards and rushing yards. Even with those losses, we went 1 for 4. Just hit Jefferson. We made 2 times the money, the return, because we hit Jefferson at plus 900. So that's there right there. And it's not like we were off by Herbert was second, Nick Chubb was third, who I took, and then I had Myles Garrett sacks. He was tied for second. So if we would have cashed just a couple of those, man, sheesh.
Next podcast, Brad, would have been outside in a hot tub, probably.
Now, here's where we got to get better, I will say. So I'm looking at the win totals that we had. So, so I went 3-6 on these. Now, I will say I got a bad rap on, I think, on a couple. Like the Ravens quit the last couple weeks of the season. Chargers pushed on 10. They lost to the Dolphins. So I went 3-5-1. That's what it was. Giants under 7.5. That was crazy. Steelers under 7.5. I mean, really, I can't believe that hit. But other than that, I mean, we were right there. And then division winners, 3 out of the 7 because the Ravens voided. So really 3 of 6. And then we got the NFL or the NFC champs and the Eagles. So, hey, it was I thought we did a good job, Tyson. I can't wait to roll it in the next season as well.
Well, I cannot believe that you're on here without mentioning you run through all those things and no mention of the Bears' worst record in the NFL, something we sweated for 18 weeks just to finally be rewarded by Davis Mills.
Shout out Lovie Smith. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And then our player props season long as well. Like we had 4 passing props. We went 3 out of 4, which is great. We had rushing touchdown props, swept the board there. A.J. Dillon, Nick Chubb, Barkley, which was great. And then our receiving props, we had a few more of those. Went 3 out of 4 on the touchdowns, overs, and then went 2 out of 4 on yardage totals for receiving props. So, hey, awesome. And we're not here just to kind of pat ourselves on the back, but I think, we wanted to be transparent with everybody out there. If you've been following us and betting with us, just giving you an update. We're not hiding behind anything. In our chalkboard app that Tyson plugs, we have all of our recaps. So we if we have a bad week, we're not hiding from it. I'm coming on here and be like, I sucked last week.
It's hard to hide when it's just on record. It's just posted. Like we can't go anywhere. You guys already heard it.
Okay, well, that's going to kind of do it for a season recap. Like we said off the top, we missed our window to talk about the Super Bowl, which is fine. Tyson was on his deathbed. The Eagles almost killed him. That makes me even more mad. But we're gonna move into early look aheads in this offseason. We've had some chatter. Obviously, the coaching market was fluctuating. We'll have a better look at that when staffs get filled out, and we'll do an in-depth analysis on each team as we get closer and closer to draft time. But some NFL storylines to monitor, Tyson. Let's just start here because that's, as we saw in the Super Bowl, you can't win it without an elite one. And Jalen Hurts performed elite, outplayed Mahomes. But at the end of the day, Mahomes was Mahomes down the stretch, and he's one of the greatest all time. We have potentially one of those guys in Aaron Rodgers on the market. Maybe coming out of his darkness retreat, he decides to move teams. The Packers maybe want to deal him. And Derek Carr, who we're not the biggest fans of, he's on the market as well. So let's talk about that. Where do you think these quarterbacks ultimately end up?
Well, when we did our Derek Carr bonus pod, I said he's going to get traded to the Saints, and I was so close to being able to come on here in victory lap. And now, to be honest with you, I truly don't know. Now that he's been released, and part of the reason that I'm struggling is Derek Carr probably isn't going to be the first domino to fall. I think if you're in the quarterback market, you want to see what happens with Rodgers. You want to see if there's any smoke around what's going on with Lamar before you kind of commit to Derek Carr. But the flip side of Derek Carr, Brad, is he really a ceiling raiser for some of these teams? Like, where does he put the Jets? Obviously an upgrade over Zach Wilson or Mike White, but it's not like Derek Carr walks into that division and you don't have the best quarterback in the AFC East. And so where does that put you on the whole? You better hope that defense is good enough. And in the NFC, it's like whatever job he picks in the NFC South, he probably can win the division, but that's it. Like, he's not going to walk under the Panthers and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of looking at it, is like, what does he do for the ceiling of a football team? And I think for a team like the Jets, who's been so desperate to have a quarterback and just give them some hope, I think Derek Carr would raise their ceiling of confidence, for like a lack of a better term. Like, they've been so downtrodden on the quarterbacks that they've drafted, the quarterbacks they've had since Mark Sanchez was, fairly successful. They're going to 2 AFC championship games. Sam Darnold was a disaster. Zach Wilson's been a disaster. Like, they can't draft a position. I think you have to pivot if you want to be successful and say, hey, this is something that we miss when we analyze a certain position coming out of college. Let's look at somebody established. And people know I'm a critic of Derek Carr, but he would be the best quarterback they've had in that franchise for a long time. And so if I'm someone like the Jets, I would certainly rather sign Derek Carr than trade for Rodgers, who I don't know how committed he is, which may sound crazy, but I don't know how committed he is and how much capital you're going to have to give up to the Packers, who love draft picks, who love kind of feasting on that and rebuilding themselves. So if I'm the Jets, I'd rather just sign somebody, play with these young players that you've drafted, done well at these certain different positions besides quarterback, and see where that takes you.
And I honestly think one thing that's going to be fun with the Rodgers situation, whoever trades for him is going to need a commitment. That you got to be here at least 2 years. We're hoping for 3. And how does that go with as far as like restructuring the contract? Because is this a deal where you're like, hey, this is a 3-year, $140 million contract, but the first year you get $30 million guaranteed, and then the next 2 we're splitting up like the 55 each, right? We got to keep you around. Will he go for that? The quarterback market is always pretty volatile in the offseason. Like, there's a lot of moving pieces. This year we get excited about like legitimate talents, whereas the last couple of years it's like, where's Carson Wentz going to play? What happens to Matt Ryan? It's like not the same thing. But to me, the biggest and most intriguing part of the quarterback market is the guys that have teams. The contracts that are going to have to be signed by Burrow, Herbert, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, like all these guys that are up for deals. Who gets done first? Who gets left? I'll use DJ Moore as an example because last year he signed 3 years, $60 million, and then all of a sudden, all of his peers were getting 12 to 15 more over the same time period. Like, what is Joe Burrow going at the end of this offseason going to be the 4th highest paid player from this class of free agents? Because one of them will be. Whoever goes last will get the most money. We know that.
And can these players, I mean, realistically, like, I mean, I guess you can if you're a Burrow, you're established. You can afford to hold out because the Bengals don't have another option. I guess similarly with the Chargers, but it's like, you kind of want to get things done. I mean, we saw with Teddy Bridgewater in training camp, freak accident, blew out his knee, was never the same player, was replaced in Minnesota because of that. Career was never the same. And we're not wishing that upon anybody. Like, we want that to happen, but that's why these players want to play under a contract. That's why these players want to not be franchised. Like they want to have a long-term commitment from teams for themselves as well. So it's a kind of a cat and mouse game. Like how long do you plan to wait things out? Yes, you know you can corner the market if you do, but at the end of the day, you want to have that security financially. And it brings me to my point with Lamar Jackson. Like, what are the Ravens going to do? I think that's a good point because are they interested in moving on from Lamar Jackson? It feels like there may be some people in that building who are interested in it. Getting rid of the offensive coordinator, paying Roquan Smith before you pay Lamar Jackson. Like there may be people in the locker room who said, hey, we may have hit Lamar's ceiling already. He's starting to get a little more banged up. Maybe we can flip him to an Atlanta, a New York Jets, get their draft picks and just say, we're good at drafting. We'll just reset this entire thing.
I would be so frustrated if they go out and get Todd Monken after years of throw it to the tight end and turn around and hand it to one of our 3 running backs in the backfield. As soon as they open this thing up, and I know there was a lot of talk, and there always is, about like the Ravens did so much to try to surround Lamar with talent. It's like a franchise left tackle got traded to the Chiefs. You went out, you traded Hollywood Brown to let Rashad Bateman walk into a role that he just showed up broken for. Like he's hurt all the time. It's like you got really lucky that Mark Andrews is the player he is, and you got really lucky that Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely look like they're going to be good football players. It's like J.K. Dobbins got hurt. It's, to me, Lamar definitely has had the best season of his career. He was the unanimous MVP of the NFL, but he can still be a top 5 or 6 guy, and that's what wins you Super Bowl. So to willingly let one of those guys walk out of the door, I think you have to have a reason that is bigger than their talent. Like a reason that I don't think Lamar Jackson's shown us publicly, that maybe he shows them in meeting rooms and things like that, and the way he prepares. But like, look at the division mates, man. Like, you're going to have to deal with Burrow for 10 more years. The Steelers just got out of their 20-year marriage to Ben Roethlisberger, and they look like they have Drew Lock too.
And they still won 9 games.
Yes. And then the Browns just committed the $55 million to a guy who might suck now. A year, fully guaranteed. Like, you're willingly walking towards that line instead of saying, okay, we're here to compete with Cincinnati.
And that should be it, right? Like the Steelers have finally seem vulnerable, or like I just said, I mean, even with like all the question marks and a rookie QB, they finished with a winning record. Like it's uncanny.
Yep.
And the Browns just seem to be the Browns again. Like that was a question mark. Like, whoa, finally got Deshaun Watson. And it's like, well, doesn't seem like Stefanski's really that good of a coach. Is the roster really that good? And Watson just may be done. But we'll see, right? I mean, coming off that long layoff. But I agree with you. Like, why would they willingly pull themselves back down to that pack? It doesn't make much sense unless, like you said, there's just not a belief in that locker room that Lamar Jackson really is the guy. And I'm not sure. Like, we're not in that locker room. I know you're much higher on Lamar Jackson as a ceiling and what his ceiling can be than I am. Like, I think he's a really good player. I don't think he can ever be a top 5 QB in the NFL. And I know he won an MVP. But I think when you're talking about what wins in the postseason, I don't know if Lamar Jackson can be that guy. And so if the Ravens have already come to that decision themselves and are like, hey, let's go see if we can get somebody else who can be that guy, I would not be shocked if they try to move him to one of these franchises who are desperate for a star QB. And then they're just like, hey, we're just going to rebuild again.
And if you're in the NFC, man, you're licking your chops. Because when you look around the NFC and the quarterback landscape, it's like Jalen Hurts and everybody else.
Yep.
Like, not that he's the best player in the conference, but he's 25 years old. And like, when you're looking around, it's a bunch of old guys on the back half of their career or guys who aren't in that upper echelon of quarterbacks. So if you can go get a 26-year-old Lamar Jackson and you're Atlanta, you're feeling really good compared to where the Saints, Panthers, Buccaneers are, where the Packers are about to end up. Like, you don't want to be the Vikings. And I'm sorry to Vikings fans, but this is what we say all the time. And I think it was proven in the Super Bowl. It's like they said it over and over again in the lead up to Super Bowl, but the NFL is a bell curve. And when you're sitting in the middle, you're screwed. Like, you have to be 4-12 to be able to be or 4-13 now to be able to be 13-4. Like, that's the way this league works. You can't sit at 8-9, 9-8 every year, and then all of a sudden, like, flip a switch. You have to go get somebody. And occasionally, teams draft a tight end number 4 and then draft a wide receiver number 11. You need somebody to throw them the football. I think Atlanta's a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so because if Atlanta runs with Desmond Ridder for 17 weeks, they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. Like,
People are doing this weird thing where they're convincing themselves that he was impressive. Have you noticed?
no, I haven't seen. Who's saying that? What, do they have eyes?
I'm seeing that
He's
all
horrible.
over the place. That they don't need to go out and draft a quarterback because they got
What?
to see what they have. It's like
They
we
don't have
saw it.
anything. I'm
We
telling you,
saw it.
he didn't have anything at Cincy. Come on,
I mean, the dude,
it's
he takes care of
crazy.
the ball. He's a mature guy. He's grown up, right?
Sure, yeah. You know, was that too Alex Smith? He didn't win anything. Like, jeez, man. Like, especially when we're like talking about the great quarterbacks. We just named Burrow, Mahomes, Herbert hasn't done anything in the playoffs, and
No,
he's an incredible talent. And it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna be okay with Desmond Ritter because he takes care of the ball. Like, come on, that's insanity.
I know. And I mean, we're kind of going off in the weeds here on the Falcons, but like, do you wait for 2024 and then hope you hit Caleb Williams, and then all of a sudden you have money tied up in Kyle Pitts and Drake London before you can pay? Like, you're playing a very strange game over there. But I mean, that's just one of the teams. It felt like we were picking on them a little bit. There's 8, 9, 10 teams that could use a quarterback. And honestly, like, all these free agents are probably looking around like, what's going on with Trey Lance? You guys really sold on him? I want to come play for Kyle Shanahan. I want to go to San Francisco.
Yeah, and that's another good point too. Is Brock Purdy, is he going to be healthy in time? UCL surgery apparently wasn't the full Tommy John. They say he's going to be back by training camp. Is he going to be an effective thrower? And really, are you going to be sold by Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant? I know that offense is great, and we didn't get to see truly like what he could do against an elite team in the Philadelphia Eagles, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to be convinced that Mr. Irrelevant is going to be
off
that guy.
the top of your head, can you think of the last backup quarterback that came in, won a bunch of games for a really good team, and then got a giant contract?
Yeah, wasn't it Tom Brady?
Brock Osweiler.
Okay.
How'd that go?
Yeah, not great. Not great.
Brock Purdy might be better. He might not be, but he certainly doesn't seem like he's going to be an all-world guy. I mean, that's just like the risk you have to take here. But like, if he was a free agent right now, who's lining up that Brock Purdy is going to be their starter? And I think you have to look at it that way as San Francisco. Even though he won you a bunch of games, it's like, shit, this is year 4, right, where we fell just short. We got to get somebody.
Yeah, you got to get somebody that's going to take you over the edge. Like, that's what John Lynch needs to do. Like, that's what he's supposed to be. All right, so that's QBs on the move. Like, we're going to monitor that. We're going to have a ton of different stuff regarding the quarterback market. It could be slim, it could be robust. We're not quite sure. Is there another storyline, Tyson, that you are monitoring as we start the NFL offseason, as we're getting closer to NFL draft, the combine, and then we get to the NFL draft in April? Is there anything off the top of your mind that you think people should be paying attention to as we flip the calendar to the basketball season?
Well, one of the things I think that's kind of come up a lot, and most of it is quarterback related this offseason. Don't get that confused. But in the NFC East, I think there's a handful of pretty interesting things. Can the Eagles retain all of their defensive free agents? Spoiler alert is no. It's just how much of those guys are going to get paid other places. But Brad, to me, a team that's in a super unique situation this offseason is the New York Giants. And that's because they have Daniel Jones, who reportedly has fired his agent and wants more than he wants 45 a year.
He wants $45 million. That's a Patrick Mahomes.
That's good luck, bud. But then Saquon Barkley's also a free agent, and it's like one of those guys has to get the tag. And if you're New York, you would much prefer to tag Saquon Barkley and get a deal done with your quarterback, because if they take Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley's on a new football team next year.
And then what did they do, right? Because clearly their offense was reliant on Saquon Barkley. They didn't have to put it all on Daniel Jones' arm. They didn't all have to rely on just him to make the throw. And I can't believe he's asking. Can you imagine being Daniel Jones having the balls to do that? Like, they could have like traded him. Like, I don't know. They could have.
Do you think his agent?
Crazy to me.
Do you think his agent laughed when he told him he wanted 45, and that's why he fired him?
So he was with CAA, I saw, which represents a ton of people. Like, it's a huge agency. And I don't know what the rift was there, but moved over to Athletes First. And I don't really know anything about them other than, it's some newer agency. But I don't know. I don't know legitimately how Daniel Jones thinks he has the bargaining power to ask for $45 million at quarterback in this league. Like, it's crazy.
I mean, if he didn't play the playoff game against the Eagles, and he just called it after the game against the Vikings, there's a world where he might end up with what he asked for. because everybody in the country, for some reason, after watching this guy play for the previous 3 years or whatever, and then watching him this season in the playoffs, all of a sudden that Vikings game, people were like, I don't know, man, this guy has it. This guy's good. When that's not who he is. That's never
Yeah.
going to be who he is. It's just he is the new Dalton line, right? He's the new 16. And if you want to tie up $45 million into the 16th best quarterback in the NFL, or in that tier, because that's firmly where he is for me, and I don't see much upward mobility with Daniel Jones, you're screwed. That's the end of your contending window, and that thing is slammed shut until you're guaranteed money. You're not paying him anymore, which, with the way some of these things are structured, could be 6 years from now.
And I think, kind of circle back to the Eagles thing as well. These, the Giants, they're in the playoffs, won a playoff game. I have contenders here, and there's a bunch of others that we can touch on too. But that's one of the reasons why we want to go more in depth into these teams. So we can look at them from a specific lens. But I think your point's valid. Like, spoiler alert, no, Eagles aren't going to retain all these guys because nobody in the NFL does if everybody's a free agent. A lot of people in that defense are. And so you know why the NFL is called Not For Long, or nicknamed Not For Long? It's because it's easy to get out of contracts and get new guys in, new faces to fit systems. So it's going to look different, man. It's going to be a different team. And, that's why I think the Patriots did such a good job over the years in their dynasty. They plugged and replaced, got guys who could play in their system, and guys with the hunger and weren't complacent enough to need to prove themselves. So it could be a blessing. It could be a curse. We'll see. We'll see how good of a coach Nick Sirianni really is when we see a little adversity here, losing the two coordinators as well.
And one thing I think that's pretty important to keep in mind when it comes to the NFL free agency is, like, a lot of these dudes were 1 year, $4 million deals. And then they played their way into a 2 for 12 or a 3 for 50 or whatever it is. Very few guys are coming out here signing a 4 for $72 million deal and then doing it again the next time they're up. It's going to be that way next year. We're going to be sitting here talking about whoever loses the Super Bowl next season. And it's like, can they retain all these people? Because half your roster is up for a new contract perpetually, all the time. That's the way the NFL works. And that's why the good teams are good. That's why, as you said, the Patriots stayed on top for so long. That's why. How many dudes on the Chiefs they weren't even on the Chiefs a year ago.
Right.
They certainly weren't on the Chiefs last time they won a Super Bowl. That's just the way it works.
Yep.
Man, that's been 3 years. These things change all the time. It's rapid. And to talk yourself, oh, man, the Eagles lost T.J. Edwards. That's pretty – there's a lot of guys that are the same.
Yep. There's a lot of dudes in this league. That's for damn sure. Okay, man. I mean, that's NFL storylines to monitor for now. We want to get a quick little football episode in, allow you guys to let ourselves pat ourselves on the back for a bit. We appreciate that, as always. But before we get to the whole spiel and everything, I want to plug – Tyson's going to plug the actual app itself. But we're going to have some fun stuff coming out next year for our different content. We're gonna be giving out picks earlier in the week than we do on Friday or on our Thursday episode if we like it. So that's going to be in the app that Tyson is going to plug. We're going to try to beat these closing lines a little bit earlier in the week. And if you missed out on that while we do the show, we apologize, but that's a way that we are going to try to attack this football season and the NFL moving forward, because these stale markets, it's hard to win. If you can get in a price earlier or a number earlier, we think we're going to have a much better success than just 53% and maybe around 50 on the side. So that's the goal moving forward. We're going to have some more interactive stuff as well. But Tyson, tell them where they can find our stuff that we're talking about in that app.
And if you're done betting the NFL, because we all are right now, you can go to the Chalkboard app. It's in the App Store. It's in Google Play. Brad and I are in there betting college football, college basketball, MMA, the NBA, NHL. If you can think of it, we're betting on it. If you only want to bet football, we got the Combine coming in 8 days. We got the draft in 2 months, basically, from today, like 2 months in a week or something like that. The draft market's great if you want to get in there and make money. And that's one thing that you're going to want to be in the Chalkboard, because you have to be following a lot of these smoke screens from people. You have to be following guys that are actually plugged in with the team, not named Adam Schefter, to find out who these dudes want to pick. We'll be throwing money down. I had a great draft last year as far as getting guys over, under, and exact picks, and you did as well. And that will be in the Chalkboard. The group name is The Round Table, and it's downloaded wherever you find your apps.
Yeah, Tyson absolutely crushed the draft last year. It was super impressive. So I'm going to be leaning on him a lot because he's He's really good at this stuff. So definitely check him out there. And in the meantime, make sure to follow us on social media. Our Instagram's @_the roundtable pod. The TikTok handle is the same. And you can always send us a tweet over @TRT_pod. We really appreciate you guys supporting the show. Like, subscribe, and share. The more you like the show, the better we do on Apple and Spotify or wherever you listen. So we really appreciate you liking it. Send us a 5 stars if you haven't reviewed it yet. That'd mean a lot to us as well. We have a ton of content coming out too. Now it's not just football stuff. We are in basketball season. We're going to be doing a ton of college, a ton of NFL content. And Tyson and I like to fancy ourselves as a little bit of some golf experts here. We'll be doing a lot more with the podcast this season. And if that's not your vibe, we have plenty of stuff that you can follow along to. Just make sure you contact us on social media if you want to hear our opinions on that. So we'll have a ton of stuff coming out soon this week. It was good to be back. We appreciate you all listening. So until next time, guys, peace.